Hi, my name is Damon Gregory. I was just interviewed by Keith Andrew on the Keith Andrew Network. Had a blast. And if you haven't done so, I think you need to check out his show. You're going to have a really good time learning about a lot of stuff. And Keith's an awful fun guy to hang out with. So get on it.
For people who want to know what is the Keith Andrew Network, the whole point of my talk show is to show you that even with having a learning disability, I can still amount to something. And at the same time, I'm able to turn myself into an example for people out there dealing with any types of learning disabilities and disabilities to never give up and prove people wrong. Prove to them that labels do not dictate who you are and who you're going to be. So just prove to them you can still amount to something. So that being said, 20 minutes of your time. First thing I want to start off is, actually the first question I want to tell you about is how has life been during the whole pandemic? And obviously it's really important for people out there to wear masks, social distance, and get vaccinated. It's free of charge, and it's the right thing to do. But with that being said, first question I want to ask you is tell our audience a little bit about yourself.
Hi, my name is Damon Gregory. I'm an actor. I live in Kelowna, British Columbia. It's about 4 hours east of Vancouver. We have a very thriving industry up here in television and film, and I've been part of the scene on and off since 1998. I'm a union actor. I am the father of two and the grandfather of one, and I'm resuming my career right now as an actor. It's a great tie-in to what you said there, Keith. For me, the shutdown made me re-examine my life. I was living in California and running a business in luxury home construction and doors and windows, totally different field. But I was asked by a client one day, if you could do anything you want to do tomorrow instead of this, what would it be? And I said, I'd go back to my acting career. So 2 years ago, give or take, I made that decision and I shrunk my world down, closed my business, packed up and returned to Canada. And here I am being interviewed by you.
No, absolutely. And Canada is home to some of the most famous people in the world. You know, Trish Stratus, there's this hockey player, but his name escapes. Oh, Mark McGuire. I think that's baseball. I'm not good at sports.
Mark Messier, I think you might be talking about.
Yes,
was a great hockey player, played for the Edmonton Oilers as well. I think the Vancouver Canucks for a while.
I'm a big wrestling fan, but I know absolutely nothing about football and hockey.
It's okay. We all like a good sport, though, right? Get out and cheer for your team.
No, absolutely. And it's better than baseball. I tell you, the past couple Met games, it's really freaking brutal. What I don't like baseball is you stand there, you hold the bat, and you see like 1, 2, and if 3 balls go by, I'm like, Jesus Christ, just hit the swing, do something. Instead, you're standing like,
yeah, looking good.
That's why I hate baseball, because it's slower. But, it's football, and it's going to be football season. But like I said, I'm not good with any names on the whole football team. But hockey, definitely. I love Toronto. I always wanted to move there. I'm looking forward to seeing the Toronto Blue Jays, the Toronto Maple Leafs, Tampa Bay Lightning. I know obviously they're not Canadian, but those are one of my favorite teams. My dad is a diehard Ranger fan. So anytime they go against Rangers, I root for the opposite team. So either it's the Maple Leafs, Toronto Blue Jays, Tampa Bay Lightning, the Sharks. Now, I don't know any people on the team. I just like the names of the teams.
Well, I think actually, too, one of the teams that relocated from Winnipeg, Manitoba, back in the 90s, became the Phoenix Coyotes. in the NHL. And there was another team that did similar and became maybe Dallas North Stars. Maybe I got the two mixed up, but yeah, hockey's a great game to watch, and we're very proud of it here in Canada. It's all you can do in the winter sometimes.
It's true. The last sports thing I do want to tell you about, you may or may not know, if LA Dodgers didn't go to LA, they were supposed to be the New York Dodgers, but they didn't want to be in Queens, so they went to Los Angeles instead.
Yeah, I think before they moved to LA, they were the Brooklyn Dodgers.
Yes,
back
thank
in
you.
the day. Yeah.
Well, Brooklyn Dodgers, Queen Dodgers, and they're both New Yorkers.
New Yorkers. Yeah. Where do you live?
Oh, New York, not in New York City, more upstate New York. So I'm about an hour away from Albany, between 6 to 8 hours from Buffalo, and it's pretty good. I'm in the Catskills. You ever been to New York?
Yeah, I was born on Long Island, actually, a long, long time ago. And my father worked in Manhattan, but I do have some friends from high school when I lived in Arizona. One of them lives in Buffalo now, and she says it's cold as heck in the wintertime.
Well, it is uncensored. You have the right to whatever you want to say.
Oh, you caught me there, did you? I almost cussed, and I wanted to be sure.
But, it's funny you should mention that the reason I'm doing the filler shows, the Canadian edition, the UK edition, I was looking at my schedule and I'm like, okay, can't wait. I finally got up to 900 episodes.
Wow.
And then I'm like, okay, the problem is I was staring at the website and I'm like, it's 22 to 23. And I don't want to do episodes now because it's still 21. And if I run over, then I'm going to have some more open gaps. So I'm like, the hell with it. I'm going to wait until January. In meantime, let's get more creative. So that's why I came up with the Canadian show. And then we have the UK show. And if I work on the time difference, Japan edition. So I want to make the Keith Andrew Network globalize so I can make the fan base globalize.
That's awesome.
That's not what I wanted to say, but just wanted to throw it out there. But before we get to the question, one question I do want to ask you is, where on Long Island were you born?
A little town called Mineola.
Sounds familiar. I'm not really sure. Is that north or south?
I think it's in Westbury area. I went back there after I graduated high school, took a look around and saw the place, but I don't recall exactly geographically. I think by drive from Manhattan, about an hour and a half. And it would be on the east side of the island, I believe.
Is that going towards Jones Beach or away from Jones Beach?
The only two things that come to mind are Westbury and Mineola. And you're going to make me pull out an atlas, aren't you?
The reason I asked is my parents actually used to live in Long Island. They used to be in Massapequa, and my grandparents were actually in Seaford.
Huh. There you go.
Small town, right?
Yeah, you know what I was going to say too regarding your channel, Keith. You can go global, which I'm sure you will, and you are. But you could also do 24-hour Keith Andrew Network.
Well, absolutely. Hey, I have over 900 episodes, so
that's really impressive. That's terrific.
Now, this is not about me. The reason for the filler episodes is it's more fun, spontaneous. There's a script, but sometimes I like to go off script. But the question I want to ask you are a book author, number one, and what were some of your favorite author books that you ever written?
Do I have a favorite author, you said?
Well, you are a book author, right?
I haven't written any books. I am primarily actor. I've got some musical training and work behind me, but I'm actually beginning the process of writing, but these would be autobiographical things, some crazy adventures from my lifetime that have been sitting in a pile waiting for me to pull out the pen. And now, again, given this time in life, I'm going to bring those to the page because every time I tell the stories, everybody says, those are so incredible. They can't be true. But I tell them they are.
Hey, if you're up for ghostwriting, once I get to 10,000, maybe you would be interested.
Oh, yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great.
So the first question I want to ask you is, what attracted you to begin your career as a professional actor?
That's a good question. I think ever since moving out to Arizona from New York when I was about 4 or 5 and seeing a whole different landscape. And my father was a big movie fan, and color TV was just coming in the early 60s there. And we used to sit and watch these big, great movies. He was a terrific movie fan. And I used to go out during the day and I'd pretend with my friends that we were cowboys or whatever we would do. And we'd get our little guns, or we were, whatever bad guys I could imitate were good guys. And it was always a passion. And I grew up to love film. And after lots of other, different journeys, different paths that I took, I realized in my late 30s that I want to be true to myself, and I am going to become what I've always wanted to be, which is an actor. And so I moved to Vancouver and took a 2-year full-time program, and that was that. I was hooked and I was working, and I'm just so grateful that I made that choice, because I'm more happy than I've ever been in my life.
And the other question I want to ask is, what has been your greatest achievements?
Having children.
It's funny. I asked my mom the same exact question. She said, having kids, one of her greatest achievements.
And now being a grandpa, it's even more, comes to life even further. You realize that's your living genes running around out there.
Carry on the generation.
Mm-hmm.
So the other one I want to ask you is, going off script now, is I want you to be brutally honest. Well, that's saved for my next question. The first question I want to ask is, have you ever worked with people with disabilities besides me? And are you willing to work with people with disabilities?
I'm willing to work with anybody, and that's a fantastic question. I have not in the past in the industry. I have in restaurant business, worked with folks with some learning disabilities, but I'm open to working with anybody who is part of the story. And, what we do as actors is we tell the truth and we live honestly in the moment. So just this experience with you right now is a terrific one for me. So thank you.
No, I appreciate it. And hey, it works both ways. So the other one on X is social media. Have you ever received any opportunities from Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn? Have these platforms ever gave you opportunities, or do you think with your career, if you sneeze the wrong way, they can easily backfire?
Well, because I'm not really good with it, I'm sort of staying away from social media because I don't really understand its place and how it functions. It seems so easy for so many, but I haven't received any opportunities. But I can say that in the spring, I did see a casting notice on one of the casting sites, and I did an audition by Zoom, and I got the part, if that qualifies.
No, you look at it like this, in a way, yes, the pandemic it's horrible, but if there's a silver lining, social media really benefit. Video game sales, Netflix, Hulu, with Zoom, Skype. I used to use Skype, but now I'm addicted to YouTube. You must said YouTube. I'm addicted to Zoom. It's, if you're online, you're really like, well, people can't go anywhere. Now we can look at that market. But at the same time, my dad went to the Middletown Mall in Middletown. Mm-hmm. He said it was like going to a funeral, and it was really bad because there was no business. The shelves were empty. And it's like, how are you supposed to stay in business if there's no customers? Disney recently were like, well, they said this for a couple of years, but now they actually took their heads out of their ass and actually did it. And unless they didn't, they were like, oh, we need people to come to Disney World and come and it's very expensive. Well, you have Disney World, Disneyland, you have rides, you have merchandise. We don't need all these different stores. So in Woodbury Commons, there was a Disney store, but they just closed, said, we don't need you anymore. We're going to force people to go to Disneyland. Now, on the downside of that, you can go to Walmart, you can go to Amazon. So yes, Disney can think they can profit off it, and maybe they can, maybe they can't. But there's always going to be someone else say, I can give you a better deal.
Mm-hmm. That's very true. And I think, unfortunately, the pandemic's changed everything we knew of life. On the other hand, we have all this great entertainment. And in our industry now, that's creating a lot of opportunity, which wasn't there 3 years ago or 2 years ago. The streaming was already big, but now at such an alarming rate, was never anticipated. And you can't build the studios fast enough or make enough content. It seems it's just going to get gobbled up because of the binge watching habit and the ability. Back in my childhood, we had to wait a week for the next show. And now I just watched, I'm guilty of it too. I started watching a series, a Western series a couple days ago. I'm already in the middle of the second season, 3 days in. I'm addicted.
My parents actually got back into watching St. Elsewhere.
Oh, wow. That's been a while. That was Howie Mandel and Robert Denzel. And I think that was those guys.
You can't beat the class. It's 40 years ago, but to be honest, it's better than what we have now. Not saying it's saying a lot, but it's kind of like with music. Every time you do music, trying to think without hurting myself, you have Rolling Stones, you have Green Day, you have Rush, you have, just throwing some songs in there that I listen to. You listen to all these songs from the 60s and 70s and 80s, and like, why people in the entertainment world are using these songs? And the truth is, most of the songs of today are just freaking terrible. The idea
That's telling it like it is, Keith. I appreciate that.
No, I agree. WWE did their new, I'm a wrestling fan, so they have a new show. They had a show, NXT, and they're like, oh, let's do it over. It looked like someone vomited Nickelodeon all over it, number one, even though it's kind of okay. You wanted to have young people interested, colorful colors, okay. But then they had to put rap music in that. It's like, yeah, that's not going to mix.
That's not going to work for me.
Personally, let me ask you this. Are you a WWE fan, a professional wrestling fan?
No, when I was a kid, we had some pretty primitive wrestling. And, we always used to pretend that we were doing that as kids. And it was very big, too, because I lived in southern Arizona, but Mexico had a very big and popular, thriving wrestling scene with a lot of the masks and things. And actually, I get teased when I go there because there was a character called Blue Diamond, they say. And I even bought the little mask, and his name was Blue Damon, or Blue Diamond, they say. So I was a fan then, but I think I lost track of it when it just went over the top, and the Vince McMahon era and there was just something where I said, all right, the entertainment, I guess I have a different taste now for this, and it just lost its appeal.
Well, I didn't actually give you a history lesson. I didn't even know. I mean, I saw bits and pieces where the WWF was on TBS, and I saw, the Monday Night Wars, and I'm like, did I see this before? I did not. I found out that Vince and Ted Turner worked together. Mm-hmm. And then Ted Turner was like, okay, well, I want to enter in, because he had TBS, he had baseball, he had all these other things. So let's get into wrestling. So he calls McMahon. He says, hey, I'm now in the wrestling business. And I'm like, well, congratulations, but there's a difference. Ted Turner's like, what are you talking about? You're in professional wrestling. I'm in entertainment.
Got it.
I mean, Vince McMahon did a lot of good. WrestleMania, that was a gamble. That could have easily backfired. You
Sure.
had a lot of people like Hulk Hogan, Bret Hart, Randy Savage. But I guess you're older than me. That's saying. But you probably like Bruno Sammartino and Gorgeous George. To me, those people sucked. But I'm not saying if I was born then, I'd be like, oh yeah, it's entertainment. But you see a progress over the years of these so many different things. And thank God the women got better looking because it was really creepy back in the day. But that's enough out of me. So what I'm going to do is the last 6 minutes left, I'm going to pass it over to you. Was there anything you want to talk about? Anything you want to promote? This is your time.
Oh, well, I appreciate that, Keith. No, I'm enjoying this. I can't remember the last time I had an interview. I'm, as I said, really grateful to be back into the industry, and I am very much right now involved in British Columbia here. Some of my oldest friends are Indigenous to Canada, Dene and people from northern British Columbia, and I'm really involved with the inclusion. We're really trying to help get the Indigenous involved in the industry to tell their stories and to bring their history to life through documentary and film. And so I'm a big champion of that right now. Just that's a personal thing. And I brought one of my oldest friends who is Dene Indian and she and I just worked on a film together, a great Canadian film that we are looking forward to seeing called Invasions. And that's a CBC project. There's a huge project going on right now called Bones of Crows. It's going to be a CBC miniseries, and I'm working real hard to get a part into that. And aside from that, those would be my causes. Aside from encouraging others and younger people, and I do a lot of audition taping and coaching here in my studio. And I like to help others to get involved. I teach improv and audition skills, and I like to help others when they are willing to take that step forward and say, I have the courage to do so. I like to be there to say, you can do it. It's a really fulfilling aspect to the work. So, and it's been a good year. I've had 3 gigs this year and just got on with a new agent in Vancouver. And I'm very excited to have some new opportunities coming my way and just living my best life, as you say.
No, absolutely. And actually, I want you to be brutally honest and just going back to that, but I want to ask a second question. With everything that you've seen on the Keith Andrew Network, do you think I would always benefit from taking your classes, or do you think I'm doing good? I want you to be brutally honest.
I think you're doing terrific. You're a good listener. You got great questions. And, we're very present right now. The only thing that we could improve, it's not going to happen right away where we could be in the same room. That would be really fun because there is a little something in that delay that is,
yeah.
It's very similar to, I grew up with a telephone that had a cord and that plugged into the wall. So when we talked on the phone, you were hearing real analog sound coming from wherever the heck it was. And it's very similar to what happens on the cell phone when you end up talking over each other or those hesitations or when it fades out. So I think you're doing a terrific job and, you're only going to get better.
Well, absolutely. And I do have a couple questions for you off the air, but I want you to be brutally honest. That should be a hashtag, brutally honest.
I was just going to say, you got to coin that for yourself or something. You got to be Keith Andrew honest.
Actually, that's not a bad idea. Actually, maybe we can work on a show. But like I said, I have some great ideas.
Okay.
But when I first approached you to be a guest on my talk show, when you read that email, what made you say yes? How do you feel now? And would you recommend my show to other people?
That's a great question. I was a little surprised that somebody wanted to talk to me. Who am I? Just a guy working for a living in the industry. So I was a little nervous at first and thought, I have nothing to say. And then I gave it some time and you persisted, which was good. And I said, you know what? He's got the courage to put this to me. I'm going to stand up to the plate and I'm going to take a swing. And I would encourage anybody to do so, because how can I say, I think in that moment, we help each other. We discover, we get to converse, we learn about things that we didn't know, and we get to have some laughs. So why wouldn't you, is what I would tell somebody else, unless you're scared. And that's normal too, but sometimes that's all the fun of it. Why do you go on a ride at Disneyland? Because it's scary.
That's true. It's like, there's certain things you should never do. Piss in the wind, tug on Superman's cape, and whistle in a graveyard.
I got one more for you.
What's that?
Don't cook bacon naked.
It sounds, I heard that one before. Actually, that's really funny.
Yeah, I had a friend who used to go on about this. He'd say, I told you never to point. And I told you a million times, never exaggerate. Don't talk with your mouth open.
My dad,
I have a problem with paranoia, but I don't know. And then somebody said, oh, you're just apathetic. And I said, what do I care?
That's true. What I always say to people, if you can look at your own reflection in the mirror, you're doing something right. The problem is you can't look at your own reflection. You need to change something about yourself. And that's where the problem begins.
Well said. Well said.
But I do have a couple questions for you off the air. But the last one I want to ask you is, how can our fans and listeners get in touch with you? Are you on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram?
I just signed up for all those things with my name, Damon Gregory, TikTok, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, because my agent said I got to do so. And that's the easiest way, Facebook as well. And I'd appreciate hearing from anybody with any comments on what they have to say. And, I always told my friends when we'd be standing in line, my friends, actually my kids, they used to get so embarrassed. We'd be standing in line because I would strike up a conversation with somebody waiting. I don't pick up my phone and start looking at it. This was earlier times. And they'd say, oh, Dad, you're so embarrassing. You'll talk to anybody, anywhere about anything. I said, well, you never know when you're going to meet your next best friend.
Yeah.
And they always thought, oh, that's so corny. That's so dad. But now when I travel with them or I spend time with them in public and they're adults, it's funny to see who's actually the one starting the conversations now. It's them. And they do so openly and completely, and they're so present. It makes me really, really happy. And I'll just add one more comment. Keith, earnestly, honestly, and Keith Andrew honest, if you hadn't told me you had a disability, I wouldn't know.
I get that a lot. I put a good mask on.
Well, and that doesn't mean to say, and I don't know, and you can tell me off air, on air, whatever, but I'm just really glad. And I admire your courage to do what you're doing. I think it's terrific.
No, I appreciate it. Now, wrapping up the show, I do have a couple questions for you off the air. For our fans and listeners, make sure to go to the YouTube show, hit the notification, like, comment, and subscribe. If you're on Facebook, you will be tagged in there, so you will get to see the comments, or you get to interact with your fans. Our goal is to reach over 100 and more views, likes, and comments. But wrapping up the show, it was a real honor and privilege having you as a guest, and I'm looking forward to part 2 down the road. I just want to say thank you for your time.